my no 2 hours are same. Okay, so at 1 hour, I'm working on some client engagements. And right at the second hour, there is another ask. As a woman, the discomfort is more. As a woman, when you're into spaces, the first thing that you have to do is prove yourself that you were there for a reason. So we've lawyers, we've doctors, we've engineers, we've MBA graduates, and the life is same for everyone because to earn money you have to put in those extra hours.
So, what are your opinions on current gender pay gap?
And especially when we are always gaslit that it doesn't exist, especially in the Western world, they keep saying that it actually doesn't exist and it's in our heads and everything.
Do you think people from non-NLUs they're at a disadvantage as compared to NLU people or maybe a DU student? Hey guys, welcome to Your Honor Seriously, where legal jargon meets chat time conversations or matcha if that's what you're into. Here, we yap a lot, mostly about the law, and we often find ourselves thinking, Your Honor, seriously? I'm your host, Anisha.
And I'm your host, Durga, bringing courtroom drama straight from the courtroom to your playlist. Let's dive into today's exciting chat.
Today we have a very special guest, a real life Elwoods, Miss Pooja Tiwari.
She's a public policy consultant, a certified POSH trainer, and the vice president of Wiki India Italy Business Council.
And in this podcast, you will learn about completely new and a fresh field of law, public policy. Let's dive right into it and hear it from the legend herself.
I hope you enjoy today's episode because we certainly had a lot of fun talking to her.
Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Hi Anisha, hi Durga. I'm very well. How about both of you?
We are very
We're
well
also
too.
fine. Yeah.
We just wanted to thank you for doing this with us and joining us for this special episode.
Yeah, especially considering your busy schedule and how important your job is. It is a pleasure to have you here.
Well, thank you so much for being so understanding and accommodating as per my day. So I'm thankful for that.
No worries, ma'am. So, starting with our segment one, we would just want to know a little bit about your academic journey. Like, since law school to right now, how has your journey been? What prompted you to choose public policy as a career?
Okay. So I'm basically from Lucknow, okay, and I stepped out around at the age of 17. And one thing that both of you and I have in common, I also got into Lloyd for my law. And that's when I thought of, that would be the journey. I'll complete my 5 years. But, once you're in a private law college, you hear things. Once you're in your first year, you get to believe a lot of things because you've not experienced the profession on your own. So after my 3 years at Lloyd, I decided I should go into another institution to actually pursue my law degree. Maybe that may recur more benefit. I was with that biases. So I got into Campus Law Center and I did my law from there. Thereafter, I got into my master's in corporate and commercial laws from NUJS Kolkata. During this time, I became very involved in, women studies or women engagement or women entrepreneurship initiatives. So that's when I decided I should have my first hand of learning experience. So I did my master's in gender and development studies. And so far, I think that has been my academic journey, and I'm still in the learning process. Try to, skill myself or acquire as many skills as possible with the growing times. So that's that. Now, answering your second question, how did I venture into public policy space? Well, when I was actually prepping up for this video episode, I was actually going back and thinking, why exactly? Because you see, obviously, logically, everything, makes sense. I did this, I did my education, and then I got opportunity, and then I got into it. But the reason why my heart belonged here was primarily because in my masters I was working on one of my paper that was on international trade law, and there my favorite and the most strict faculty then, Dr. Sandeepa Bhatt, he gave me a research topic which actually was just one sentence. and I had to do my end-to-end assignment on on that one sentence. I had to draw my hypothesis, draw out my arguments, and this was basically I was looking into Article 13B of GATS, so General Agreement for Trade in Services. This was international trade law. So that is when, I started looking into what is the purview of government authority and what all services would fall under the government authority. This was exactly where my research was ventured into. And when I started digging deeper, I started to understand or gotten first hand experience of what open ended or broadly the laws may have implication. And just by implementing law or knowing about the theory of law isn't enough. And that's when I got into the roles wherein I worked on my first project with Ministry of Law and Justice, and that has been that was my first project, and since then this has been my journey so far. So hope
Right,
this.
that is, yeah, that is actually quite inspiring. And especially considering your LLM experience, how do you think that added to your approach towards public policy? Like, as you mentioned, the project that you received. In addition to that, do you think there were other experiences you had which shaped your approach towards the field?
Definitely, I think LLM was the space, the 9 months, the fast-paced 9 months at NUJS. They were just very enriching, the exposure itself, and it's not just about the institution itself, but the master's degree that I was, undertaking. I think to a great extent, when you are into a rigorous education, and you're trying to analyze from every front. You have so many subjects, a very short span of time, and you have to deliver. There is no excuse, right? So I think that's where when you get different perspective, and I'm very grateful. Another thing I would like to mention to my peers, my friends, um, uh, during my masters I made some amazing friends. They were so brilliant, so smart. Daily, on a daily basis, we would have these discussions, which in a way made me understand, okay, so eventually the implementation of law, or the enabler of a law, holds as much importance as the law itself. So that's when I started thinking that, okay, what exactly would enable it? And that's when I got into the regulatory and policy domain, and working on different projects from national to international. I believe that there has been a great credit to my master's and my LLB journey experiences. So yeah, that is the reason.
That's great to hear, ma'am. And I completely agree and resonate with you when you say that, the conversation you have with your college mates, because we are also college mates. And I remember how we started this journey of our podcast, that is, randomly discussing that, oh, should we start a podcast? And here we are doing a podcast with you. So yeah, that is really something. So going to our segment two, where we know about your work in the field. So what would you describe your typical day as?
Okay, by day, do you mean my hourly engagement, or okay, just the day? Okay, if I have to be very honest, and I have to put it in the crispest manner possible, I would say that my no 2 hours are same. Okay, so at 1 hour, I'm working on some client engagements. And right at the second hour, there is another ask. So the public policy domain is actually, it's unpredictable, right? So you're working on something. Let's say today, me and Anisha, we plan. Okay, so let's bring in a policy in the education domain so that people are more sensitized towards gender. Okay, so me and Anisha would have a lot of pointers, right? Similarly, as we go forward with our discussion, Durga will come in and give another input. So that also has to be inculcated. However, the client also has a very dire ask of getting the word delivered in a very short span of time. So to put it right, I think my day is very fast paced, involves a lot of reading. The entire day I sit on a chair, read, discuss with my peers, have a lot of meetings, very long meetings, and okay, and my guilty pleasure of having tea. that goes beyond any saying. I have nearly a lot of teas. I cannot even give the count. So that's the day: tea, work, discussions, meeting, and it just ends whenever it has to. So yeah.
Right. I think, again, as we've already talked about this, it's more of a lifestyle than it is a career. So that is very evident in your schedule as well. So, what would you say some harsh realities are that come with the field itself? Since you have gained like particular experience in the field, you must have come across some dire situations or some realities that you had to come to account with. So, what would you describe that as?
Okay, so once you put this question, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is that maybe coming from a gender space, I have a very gendered approach or a lens to this situation, because I personally feel, that as a woman, the discomfort is more. As a woman, when you're into spaces, the first thing that you have to do is prove yourself that, you were there for a reason. And this is not just only, something that you have to do for when you're at par with the males, even to females, you see. Uh, be it your peers, be it your seniors, there is a constant approach of, trying to prove that yes, I deserve to be here. I have to I have to say something smart. This conversation cannot go empty without my opinion. So these were my initial days when I started off. I've worked at an LUD, so seen very different lot of people. So I believe that's how, I also l- behaved, and also learned how not to behave. So that exactly is something that, and because NLUD was also a working space, so that experience also counts. So yeah, I think it's just you have to constantly prove something. To whom, God knows, but you have to. So that's something my take.
I completely agree with you on that, ma'am. But as you mentioned, the aspect that being a woman, also you need to do that. And since you're also in public policy, by what time do you think we would completely eradicate this point where, women would be, say, no different to how we actually work
Yeah,
in this?
because it's not just about what everybody else thinks, it's also inculcated in your
Yeah.
own self because patriarchy is that prevalent that it's in your head as well. So, what do you think about that?
To be very honest, I don't think this will ever go away. Okay, because it's not driven by one action or two action that can be changed. Right, Durga had rightly put, it's a mindset of both female, all genders, to be honest. Right, so first you have to change yourself. You have to normalize, chilling with strong, intelligent women. You have to normalize and, celebrate the fact that you have such smart women in your circle. Right, so I believe the change has to start from yourself. Okay, you have to decide what should be your set of people that you chill with, and then you have to just be nice to people. I believe that is something that is totally just not there in the world. It's just absent. So I think that's, once you start being nice, things might align. So
That
that's
is true. Like Selena Gomez said, kill them with kindness. So,
And sorry, sorry to stop you. And okay, what's the name, that Netflix series? Mm, mm, I'm just forgetting. I'm so sorry. I'm just taking
what
a
is
lot.
it about?
Uh, I'm bad with names. Wednesday. Okay,
Wednesday.
so
Wednesday.
she completes the sentence: kill them with kindness. If not, kill them with nuclear bomb. So
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
also works.
Because some people do not deserve kindness.
Definitely. You should also know when to stop.
Yes.
Yes.
So, going to our third segment, corporate culture, what are some truths and harsh realities of corporate and the consultancy culture?
Okay, I'll name three. I believe by harsh realities, there are both pros and cons. I would not say that, it's a totally bad space to be in. See, first, it's very fast paced. Okay, we at law, in the legal setup, we are very analytical, and we are very specific in our research activities, right? However, in corporate spaces, the work culture is very fast paced, because you're actually compensated accordingly. So I believe that is something that could be a shortcoming for somebody who's coming from a legal background, because even in law firm, even if it's fast paced, you have formula for certain things that has worked before. Here in public policy, you have to apply your brain and come to a justified rationale for something that you are actually suggesting for the first time to actually happen. So for that, the rational building requires some level of qualitative effort, which I believe in the fast-paced environment could be, difficult. So A, it's fast-paced. B, I think is a pro that you paid well. All right. So we in legal domain, we study a lot. In spite of having so much of knowledge, the compensation bit always bites our back. So that is where you lurk yourself, you get lurked in the domain, and you have to give equal level of effort in no matter what profession you're in. So why not get compensated, right? At least that's my formula. So that's a pro for me. uh, Another con, I believe, is a work-life balance. Definitely, that is something. If you are in the your middle career professional, mid-career professional. Sorry, I believe that's when you have to finally decide whether you would want to continue with such life cycle or not, because there are unpredictable working hours, working days. So that is something that becomes a decisive factor. So these are the three things from my end. Two cons, one pro. So yeah.
That makes a lot of sense actually, but there's also a question about which part of law actually provides you with the work life balance, because everybody we talk to has the same complaint. It spans across every field and every department. So yeah,
When you
that's the
say
reality.
every field, Durga, I'll be honest with you. I work in space where I have phenomenal smart people that I work with. I have graduates from LSE, Harvard, IITs, IIM, name any institution, and you they may not be in my current organization. So, but what I've seen is that no matter you're an engineer, no matter, and trust me, we have doctors as well, because consulting is such, it's sector agnostic. So you have experts from all the domains. So we have lawyers, we have doctors, we have engineers, we have MBA graduates, and the life is same for everyone, because to earn money you have to put in those extra hours. And it's not just about money, it's also about growth. You cannot grow if you and I are sitting at this hour on a Saturday night. We know where the effort goes in. So that's about it.
Right. So continuing on that question about working in a corporate environment, could you describe your most absurd experience in corporate?
Absurd. I think by absurdity, I primarily think has always been this only. I find it very. Already talked about it, but I find it very stupid that you have to always go as a woman and prove, "Okay, oh, I have brain. Oh, I have to give. Okay, what's your take, Pooja? Oh, this is my take. I would have a take. I think so. I believe that is something where I find it very discomforting when the gender ratio is in the lot of 10 people in a team, there are just one or two women in the team, and that too their opinion are asked, not necessitated. So and by ask, I mean to an extent it feels more like a formality, and also like it's usually asked to so that it can be combated or put down.
Right.
But I mean that is the reality. And you if I have fetish of listening to some strong women, and my favorite being Indra Nui. In her words, if I really put it right, I think you have to be strong, and you have to take it out of your head first that I am no equal. I'm unequal as my peer or my counterpart. So once you take that thought process out of your mind, out of your body, you just learn that, okay, no matter if my opinion is us, let me serve it well. You see, so those are the certain approach that I think are not needed, but you have to, because that's the working setup. I believe it has nothing to do with you're in corporate, because I was in government engagements as well, so that was also the case there. So I think
Mm.
that's everywhere.
That is true. That is in the society. And when we were talking about the mindset exists because of the society, and I don't know what we can do about it, honestly. So, on that note, starting our fourth segment, which is about Posh and Vicky. So, what are your opinions on current gender pay gap?
So about gender pay gap, if I say it from Vicky's perspective, I think Vicky has been trying to focus more on female entrepreneurship. The gender pay gap is not something that would just evade overnight. As a VP of Vicky's India Italy Council, we try to promote as much as women entrepreneurship or female entrepreneurship can exist both in India and in Italy. So I think the gender pay gap is something that is, because it's not also everywhere. It is also after a short span of time, you don't know anyone's salary, right? To be honest, I will break it down and make it very simple. If I say, okay, it will over by 2050, 2060, that's just delusional, right? I really don't know how much my male counterparts are earning. Okay, so I really don't know if it exists for me right now. So I think, however, if I'm into I'm an entrepreneur, I know for sure that I'm making good money. I know my money. I know the lifestyle I have in comparison to my peers. So I think that could be a differentiator right now. However, I think it's delusional to say that it may happen in near future. So that's
Right,
my take.
and especially when we are always gaslit that it doesn't exist, especially in the Western world, they keep saying that it actually doesn't exist and it's in our heads and everything. But it does, and it's a huge issue. So, on that note, what do you think about the recent developing public policies towards women, and where we're falling short when it comes to implementation and execution?
So you very rightly put your question, Durga, and your question has answered itself. So by policies, I don't see, being in a policy domain for a while now, I don't see that we need a lot of new policy to come in that would overnight change something. Some new institution should be formed that would change something. No, that is not something that we require right now. What we require is, we do have laws, we have good laws that have wider implications as well. The need is implementation. And as you were asking, what is necessitated to ensure the implementation, that is something that requires a very cohesive and a collaborative approach from everyone around, right? First of all, accepting that women are part of your space. By space, I mean existence. I believe that is something that is shaking. If you see quite a few cases in Posh itself, RG Kar case, then MP judiciary cases. These are two striking and mind-boggling situations that, as a being part of the legal fraternity, we've come across. It's not something normal that a judge is actually resigning because of discomfort in her workplace. A student, she's been molested, and then she's not with us right now, and no strict actions are taken. So I think, to a great extent, implementation lacks majorly. And for that, actors like you and me, actors like our peers, it actually starts from you have to make sure that you call out if you see somebody mistreating a woman, or you see that you guys are student right now, but in workplaces, if you see that there are scope of Posh implication, if not raise it as an issue, go talk about it. be human about things first, then going and questioning, okay, this policy is not existent, or this is not implemented well, because the implementation is directly driven by us. So I think that that's my opinion on this.
I mean, that is true. We need to talk more about it, put more emphasis into it. And I think that's the only way we can actually put these policies into implementation.
Yeah.
So now that, there's this mindset that women, the condition of women in the corporate, what do you think you would advise a woman who would enter this field, like being in corporate or public policy in general?
Definitely, I would definitely advise, and I say that it's a space where you learn very a lot in a very short span of time. You grow as a human. It impacts and changes your personality altogether, and you actually give a bird's eye view to everything, from a bird's eye view to a very specific detail that could actually make an impact and could also have monetary benefits. So as a woman, there is a stigma that women don't know how to manage money well, but in at least in public policy spaces, there is a lot of role of what activity may have financial implication or not. So once you start thinking from that bent of mind, I think a lot of things simplifies. So I definitely would promote that women should venture into corporate domains. They should definitely try their hands, decide for themselves they want to stay longer, or maneuver other domains as well. So for me, definitely go for it.
Right. So, banking on that subject of advice itself, we're moving to our last segment, which is advice for aspirants. So, for a student who aspires to enter the field of public policy and maybe working with the government, what do you think they should do in law school specifically? Like, what steps should they take academically and co curriculars as well to, really be successful in this field?
True, because I think after this, they'll be very interested in joining your field.
Yeah.
I hope so. Well, I think it's very, very, very important that you do have some economic idea, learn economics. Please, 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 lawyers, get into the public policy domain. There is a major lack that I feel is there. Being, in a few projects that I worked on, I was the only lawyer, and it doesn't make sense to me that application of law is done by other experts. So that's striking for me. So I would say that please go for the profession. How can you actually do it? Do some macroeconomics courses from Udemy. Do some free courses. Don't spend money on these courses. Go on YouTube. Understand how exactly economics works. That is something very primary you should understand. Do it in your law college as well. Even if you're not into public policy domain, trust me, it will help you for a very long time. Okay. My second advice would be, please try your hand on Microsoft Excel and PPTs. Okay. That's not at all something that we are taught, or we actually require in our legal engagements. But in a longer run, you have to work on Excels, you have to work on PPTs. So I think any semester, take 10 days, 15 days, do a course, just skill yourself, at least have an understanding, okay, that okay, this is something that if it comes, then I can do. Please do that. That is something that I would say. And lastly, do internships. Don't take it easy that once you're done with your law, magically a job would fall in your kitty, and somebody would help. No, that it doesn't work that way. You have to um, put some level of effort, and then hopefully things will align for you. So that's my
Like
suggestion.
they say, what doesn't kill you adds a line to your CV.
Yeah.
So that applies everywhere. Now, $1 million question that a non LLU student would ask. And as you were also mentioning, that you thought that you needed to join Campus Law Center, maybe to have a better future. So now that you are a professional, do you think people from non-NLUs, they're at a disadvantage as compared to NLU people or maybe a DU student.
Yeah, especially when it comes to public policy.
See, when it comes to public policy, trust me, there is no competition. Please come. People don't know this is a domain they can venture into. So I would not say that it has anything to do with you being an NLU and you're not being from an NLU. But definitely the interview process is where you can be grilled. Okay, and I will be very honest because I've been in a private institution, I was in a government institution, and I was in NLU as well. Okay, so I can honestly say what the trajectory could be and how it impacts you. So I would say that definitely pre-COVID, it was a very, very big deal. I mean, I wouldn't lie. I wouldn't say that it was, oh, you're non-NL, you will get anything. No, no, no. There is definitely a door that has a small hole, which may be, restricted for you. May not be the entire door, but definitely some space. So I think post COVID, what has happened is the level of online courses has increased. Okay, people have become more aware. Like today, I have you, Anisha and Durga, both of you taking up session, which was usually such initiatives were taken up by people either from NLUs or from good private colleges. Okay, inclusive of Lloyd. I wouldn't say it isn't, but definitely the initiative bit was lagging in us altogether because we were not as aware or connected. So thanks to Knowledge Steez, Loctopus, post-COVID evolution of the education field altogether, I think non-NLU definitely have a good take here, but do the essential things. If you're NLU, you're not NLU, things won't happen just like that. Do the essential, do the internship, it does make a difference. And as I was talking about the interview process, once you have the a practical experience, you apply them. Or even if you may not know the answers at time of the situation you're in or a question that is put to you, you can always have a approach of a learner, right? You can always go back saying, okay, I'll get to it, I'll think about it, and I will have an answer, maybe not to answer somebody but for myself. So I think this has nothing to do with you being from an NLU or any space. Thankfully, you have to skill yourself. That's the key. If that's there, nothing can stop you. So
Right. That makes a lot of sense. So when you say internships, where specifically do you think we should intern at? Like, is it with legislative assembly members or at law firms? Because public policy is a very specific niche, right? And it's not very readily available, especially to law students. So what would you suggest?
I would say first, if I have to break it down as somebody who's been in the field, read administrative law. Read administrative law from your books, not just any side book that you have. That is something that you should do. You have to understand what exactly is public policy, what people do. Okay, that is something you should do. An administrative law is taught you in the first 3 years of your course curriculum, so that is something you should be doing. Secondarily, I would say is that once you have an understanding of the law itself, then you start going into the applying for these internships. Why I emphasize before about the education before talking about internship is, even if you may get into the internship that are usually offered to students, you may not able to get the benefit out of it. Okay, because for you it will be very easy and laid back engagement. You won't understand. In 1 month they would not ask you to do on something that significant. Go for roles that are not always at NHRC or Ministry of Commerce or Ministry of Legal and Legal Affairs. Make sure you go to some middle or a low level government body. Go there for good 3 months. Be understand how exactly it works, what is the domain it works in, and then slowly and steadily. It's not something that would happen just like litigation or any other domain within law. This requires some level of skilling yourself up, and those acquired skills can be acquired only when you put in effort and just try to upskill yourself. So that's something I believe.
I think that's really helpful to the audience. And now that knowing that public policy is such a niche in India, I think people would definitely go for it, because I think the disputes and the other teams are really full right now and
Yeah.
people are not getting jobs. So, audience, please join public policy.
Please
So,
do, please do.
yes. So now seeing your journey, that obviously has been very inspirational and fantastic. When you now look at your college self, what would be, one thing that you would want to say to your college self?
Mm, okay. I think, to be very honest, keep going, keep taking the risk that you already are. It will work out. To whatever extent it does, it will. So keep going. Just that.
I think that is for us and everybody else
Yeah.
to keep
Yes.
going.
I think taking initiative is very important, and I think once you're there, you've done the half homework right there. So
That is true. So, thank you so much, ma'am. It has been our pleasure and honor to have this episode with you, which has been both inspiring and amazing, honestly. And I think our audience would be very interested to join public policy now.
Yeah, and so are we, honestly, because
Yes.
we never had such a first hand exposure to this field in particular. So we are very grateful to have had this conversation with you.
Yes. And honestly, it's true. Like you said, I'm so sorry.
please, Anusha, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
No, like you said that you were the only lawyer in your team, being in public policy. I think that is because people are not much aware about it as a
Yes,
field. Because as I mentioned, people run for disputes, litigation team, IPR. So these places are full.
very populated right
Yeah.
now.
I think back when I decided to venture into this space, I actually had the similar thought process that I need, not that I wanted to be different, just that I wanted to learn something. I didn't, a lot of peers or seniors that I spoke to would tell me that, it becomes very rhetoric after some time. So public policy is a domain because you're working for the future. Okay, so that is the reason why it becomes very interesting, and you're learning on an everyday basis, so it doesn't become rhetoric, you're not bored. That is something that I think is there, and definitely I personally have been an advocate. Anybody and everybody that I talk to, I just tell them, go for it. Just give it a shot, and anybody who tries to venture out in the domain through the medium of this video episode, please feel free to reach out to me and both of you as well. I'm always happy to help and give back whatever I can. So that's
Thank
all
you so much.
Thank
about
you.
it, and thank you for having me. It's been a great experience.